Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blog of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts between Taraminas on Orion Television. I'd like to welcome our friends watching on Oxford Community Television and also those watching on YouTube. We got a great show to talk to you about today. Of course, we got three big stories, of course, going around the league. Of course, two of them involving girls basketball. Lake Orion named their a new girls basketball coach, and of course, Jackie Steineck are out at Rochester Adams. Also, we got Hazel Park. A decision's been made on the Vikings, and of course, we got the MH making some rule changes. And we're going to recap the regionals, how everything went surrounding the teams, and this was the first time that everything I projected in the regional went right. So very interesting how that unfolded. So let's go to our main story. Of course, it's at Lake Orion. Lake Orion did name a new girls basketball coach, and his name is Mike Griffin. Of course, he's taking over for Kevin Kopech. Of course, Lake Orion last season finished 8-13. Griffin brings a ton of basketball experience. Of course, he was known for coaching at Sterling Heights, and of course, he spent a couple of years under as an assistant under Mike Bray at Detroit Country Day. So when I look at this one here, I know he teaches outside of district at Sterling Heights, so it's an interesting dynamic. And, this is a different challenge for Griffin because he's taken over the girls, and, of course, he's very used to coaching the boys, for the last, for so long. I mean, he's been around the boys' side. So it's very interesting to see how he's going to adapt to coaching the girls' basketball team, the girls' basketball style of play. Now, girls' basketball and boys' basketball are a little bit different when you look at how everything is folded there. And when you look at it here, of course, this is a team, as mentioned, they were 8-13 a year ago, lost to Waterford Kettering in the pre-district. What bothered me was this group was bumped up from the red to the white division to the red division this year. That's a move that's bothering me because I think that this group is not ready for it, despite the fact they have experience coming back. They really haven't had true success together. And, of course, it's a program that just went through a lot of turmoil when you look at, of course, losing a girl like Maddie Novak to who transferred out to Birmingham, Detroit Country Day. Of course, that, they've been through a ton. This is going to be now their third coach in 3 years. And, when you look at it from that perspective, I mean, this is a program that needs stability and in the worst way possible. So, when you look at it from this perspective, I do got a lot of, when I look at my thoughts about the hire, it's got a lot of questions for me. I mean, I think he's got a lot to prove to me to be considered to be to have. He's got a lot to prove, and you look to me, and basically, when I look at his coaching record, of course, the first thing I looked when I did my research was his record, and I know he spent 3 years over at Sterling Heights, but his record was 25-32. That's not good when you look at it from that perspective. So. It gave me a lot of questions. I still have a lot of questions about this hire. Can this hire work? That's one of the questions I didn't mention in my blog, but can this work? Because when you look at it from this perspective, of course, you just let Kevin Kopech go. And if this move doesn't pan out, then a lot of people are going to blame Lake Orion Athletic Director Chris Bell for this hire. So a lot. When you look at it, so this move, if it doesn't pan out, then it's not going to be good. But that's a question that I look at. That's one of my thoughts. Another thought, another question that I have, of course, is how are the girls going to respond to this hire? Now, some of them I talked to have mentioned to me that they don't know him. They really don't know what he brings. They don't know what he's going to bring to this Lake Orion program. Now, when you look at it, I mean, that's one of the questions that is how are they going to respond? And, it could go two different directions. They can respond positively, basically have a great, strong start, basically, and can they basically, and if they can do well, you know what I mean, then it'll be off to a good start. It'd be a good situation. The other one is they might not have a good start, and they start turning up. So that's another concern. So basically, it's how these girls are going to respond to him, to his coaching. That's going to be key for success. Another question is, will the turmoil come back? Now, this is a program that's been in turmoil for the last 2 seasons under then Coach Steve Roberts. And, I thought Kevin Kopeck did a really nice job getting the turmoil to lessen up, maybe even sometimes stop it. But, when things went bad, it went bad. But I didn't think it was anything wrong with Kopeck's style of play. So that's another question I have. Will the turmoil come back? Now, a lot of people are going to say no. I mean, they want to push forward, but it could very well happen. It could very well happen, and that's something that I believe Griffin's going to have to, if this team starts winning, the turmoil goes away. If this team starts losing, then the turmoil, you got to worry about turmoil. So that's another one. That's another question I have. The next one is, can he win with this group now and in the future? When you look at it, Lake Orion's going to be a senior-heavy team. When you look at players, of actually a veteran-laden team. When you look at Tessa Neuse, Sophie Canine, Peyton Shadiah, Sophie Wyborski, Sydney Stringer, Lauren Van Loon, Shannon Falter. Then you have some emerging sophomores who are going to be juniors next year. And Kylie Anderson, Grace Berger, Katie Janis, Haley Melchert. I mean, that's an interesting dynamic when you look at Lake Orion, because this is a veteran team that's coming back. They've been through the ups and downs. So that's something. And, when you look at it, can he win now, especially with the schedule it is? Because you're in the division with Southfield Arts and Tech, who's going to be very good. Again, when you look at Shia McEvans and Alexis Johnson, Clarkson with Kayla Lukenbach, Maddie Beck, Molly Nicholson. And then you look at North Farmington with Samantha Cherney, Stony Creek with Emily Elkhart. And so it's going to be Blue Bay Hills, Miriam Hashim, and Becca Hancock. So it's going to be a really interesting challenge, no doubt about it. Can he win with this group now and also in the future? That's the key. That's another question that I have. Can he be there when they struggle? Because there's going to be times that they're going to have their ups and downs. I think he'll be there for them. But that's a question I have. How will he be in the community? That's another one. So when you look at it, can he be there? I think he will be. But the big question that I have is, can he make this team a state title contender and go deep in the postseason? Lake Orion has not been deep to the postseason since they went to the regional back in, I believe it was 2010. So they haven't been there in a while. Of course, remember the year they went to state semifinal when they had Bethany Waterward, Courtney Zott, Melanie Lamorado, and Brittany Hopkins, and Alexis Hahn, Jackie Hood. So we know that team. The question that I have is, when you look at how this district, if the district is set what it's supposed to be, you're going to have to deal with Clarkston. You're going to have to deal with Waterford Kettering, who's going to be really good this year. When you look at who they got back, they got Irene Schoof, they got Marissa Brady, and of course, they're still going to be very good. Scott Woodall's a great coach. He's a very good coach. And then, of course, you have the realization of having to deal with, of course, Waterford Mott's an interesting team. But Kettering and Clarkston are the two teams you have to worry about. Oxford will be all right, too. But the two main teams are Kettering and Clarkston. And you think about it. It wouldn't surprise me if both those teams are in the district come June. It really wouldn't surprise me. And, of course, I know the division where Lake Orion Athletic Chris Bell wants to go. He wants to go deep in the playoffs. Wants to win a state championship. Everybody wants that goal. But, you're in a division, the red division, it should help you out. But the question is going to be is Griffin the right man to take this team to the playoffs? It could go deep and have a tournament run. That's my question. He has experience. There's no doubt. He's been tutored by the best. He's been a coach at Sterling Heights. He was an assistant under Mike Bray at Detroit Country Day. But this is an interesting team. This is a very interesting team. Another issue that I have is he was 0-3 against Chippewa Valley. Of course, Chippewa Valley, but now that's different between girls and boys now, okay? I think girls is a better situation for him right now. But when you look at the record at 25-32, it's shocking. It's shocking, to say the least. But, I'm not sure if Pandora's box has been opened. I really am not sure. For this program to go outside the box. I'm not sure if it's open. Could this hire be a Gene Chiswick situation? Of course, we remember Gene Chiswick, of course, he came to, he was at Iowa State. He was not very good. He was, I believe it was 6-20, I believe. And he managed in his first season to win a national championship at Auburn. And, well, then again, he did have Cam Newton. And he had, this could be a Gene Chiswick situation. It could be. Where like lightning strikes and you have a deep playoff run. Now, when you look at the teams that Lake Orion is going to have to deal with, especially in the league, that's not going to be an easy thing. It really is not. When you look at the situation, how it's unfolded. So, when I look at it here, the questions that I have, my thoughts, he's got a lot to prove to me. There's a lot of unanswered questions that I like to know about this hire. A lot of unanswered questions. So basically it's how will the girls respond to him? Will the turmoil come back? Can he win with this group now and in the future? Can he be there when the girls struggle? How will he be in the community? And can he make this team a state title contender and go deep in the postseason? That's $1 million question. When you look at Lake Orion, when you look at this team, there's a lot. There's some optimism about this hire. There is some optimism. But me, I got way too many unanswered questions. Way too many unanswered questions. You do have an experienced team coming back. You have the likes of Tessa News, Peyton Shadiah, Soapy Canine, Soapy Wyborski, Sydney Stringer, Lauren Van Loon, Shannon Falter. News and Falter were both all-league last year in the white division. And you're going up in the division, in the red division, where you're playing Clarkston, Southfield Arson Tech, North Farmington, Stony Creek twice. That is rough. That is very, very, very rough. Will this move pan out? Will this move pan out? Because if not, it's going to be on Lake Orion Athletic Director Chris Bell. And I know him. Good man. But, this is a interesting hire. Really, really interesting hire. So it's shocking to say the least. He does have a lot of coaching experience. I've got a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions surrounding this move. But it's going to be a new challenge for him. Coaching girls, from coaching the boys. Not coaching the boys. He's coaching the girls. So that's a question that I am curious to see what happens. That is a question I'm curious to see. Okay, now when we come back, we're not going to come back here. We're going to be got another situation, of course, occurring over at Rochester Adams. Jackie Steinecker. She's out at Rochester Adams. This is a coach that just won a district title and his first district title, first time since 2001. She took over for Shay Lewis, who stepped down to become the director of operations at Oakland University. Adams finished here at 8-15. They were last in the red division, lost to Fenton in the regional semifinal. Shay Lewis Jackie Steinecker benefited. She had a lot of experience. When you look at Maggie Rogers, Hannah Samard, and, of course, Ryan Owusu. Now, those three are gone. They have Grace Van Pelt and Michaela Smith back for next year. My thoughts on this, I was very surprised. Because she just led Adams to a district crown. She was on the verge of putting a program together. And then she just quit. She just left. So it'll be interesting who coaches Adams. Adams will be having their third coach in 3 years. Could it be Jeff Castona? Could it be Brad Cushman? Could it be somebody else? Castona looks like right now he's the odds-on favorite. Because when you look at it, Castona's done a really good job with Adams' program. Really has. Brad Cushman's another one. Of course, freshman coach at Adams. He knows how to win. It'd be interesting to see what happens. But when you have players like Grace Van Pelt and Michaela Smith back, there is a nucleus there at Adams. There really is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Adams program. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. Despite the fact that this program finished 8-15. They won a district championship. And now they're looking for a new coach. I'm shocked. I'm sad by it. I really am. That a lot of coaches are moving on and leaving. We haven't heard anything from Groves or West Bloomfield. Of course, at West Bloomfield, Zach Hilbert stepped down. So we'll keep an eye on those two coaching jobs over there, along with the boys' jobs at Rochester, Bloomfield Hills, and at Rochester and Bloomfield Hills. So those are interesting jobs to keep an eye on as we head into heading into summer. So we'll see what happens. My final thoughts on both moves. The Lake Orion one is like a wait and see approach. With Mike Griffith coming in there. The Jackie Steinecker out at Adams, that really shocked me that she was gone, that she resigned. And, I thought she was on the verge of putting a program together over there. But, she decided to spend 1 year and, she had her 1 year and she was out. So, so that was very shocking, very interesting to find out what happened there. So we'll keep an eye on the situations surrounding the basketball areas as we speak on those. So okay, now when we come back, we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about Hazel Park. Of course, it's the big news surrounding them here on OAA.
Owen TV here. Now, have you ever had the urge to create your own TV show? Or just wanted to see what goes behind the scenes of making one? Well, we have just the program for you. Owen TV offers production classes, which allow you to take control and create the programs you want them to be. To get started, all you have to do is sign up for a free orientation, and then register for one of our production courses. For more information, feel free to call us at 248-393-1060, or go to orionontv.org and click Register Now to sign up for classes. We hope to see you soon.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Terramini here. Of course, we got another interesting story here. Of course, it involves the Vikings of Hazel Park. Of course, I got saying an accurate source. Of course, the Macomb Area Conference's principals have turned down Hazel Park's request to enter their league effective the 2018-2019 school year. So it looks like for the time being, Hazel Park is going to be staying in the OAA after all. So, but we don't know what's going to happen if Hazel Park right now is pretty much stuck. When you look at, the OAA right now, you look at the Macomb Area Conference, and I'm a little surprised that the Macomb Area Conference rejected Hazel Park. And this is my reason why. Because you look at Hazel Park, there's a school called Warren Fitzgerald that's about 2 miles from Hazel Park. And they usually have a nice neighborhood rivalry with them. Clawson, Madison, Lamphere, all those three teams, they have a nice rivalry. They're pretty close to Hazel Park. They compete with school size. But when you look at Hazel Park, they're in a bit of a quagmire now. And it's very interesting, to say the least, how this unfolded. Of course, Hazel Park was supposed to be leaving the league in 2018-2019 for the Macomb Area Conference. But, how when you go to a conference affiliation works. Of course, Grand Blanc, what's another team we'll talk about besides Hazel Park is Grand Blanc. And Grand Blanc's a perfect example of this. Grand Blanc was a team that they were forced out of the Kensington Lakes Athletic Association because of their enrollment and also their location. Now, Grand Blanc applied to Saginaw Valley. And what happened? Unanimously, the principals and the athletic directors agreed that the Saginaw Valley principals and athletic directors agreed that Grand Blanc should be allowed in the league. And now they're going to be in the league effective 2018-2019 year. So, and it kind of made sense for them to go up into that league because Grand Blanc really has a, I know that they're a big school. They are a big, big school. They have about 2,600. And when you look at how Grand Blanc is, the last few years in Genesee County, Grand Blanc has not been. They've won the MAC. They won the KLA West. But what shocked me was Heartland and Howell, because Heartland was only 26 miles from Grand Blanc, and that was their closest rivals. And the league, of course, went further south. The league basically went from. We had the emergence of the new Lakes Valley Conference. That, of course, that is a new league that the Waterford schools, the Walled Lake schools, the South Lions are in that league. And you look at Grand Blanc, they were just left on an island. So I'm really glad for Grand Blanc that they found a home, found a new league, and it really made a lot of sense that that they are now going to be in a league to compete with their rivals such as Flint Carmen Ainsworth, Davison, Flint Powers, and of course create new rivalries with Lapeer. So I like the move that Grand Blanc going the Saginaw Valley. I really do like that. But back to Hazel Park. When you look at Hazel Park, of course, the reason why they wanted to leave the league was pretty simple. Competitive balance. Because when you look at Hazel Park, they had a big problem this year when it came to football realignment from last year. And they were not happy at all that Troy, Rochester, and Bloomfield Hills were in the blue last year. They were not happy. And the reason why is you look at Hazel Park's enrollment. Now, the 2017-2018 school year, they start next year. Hazel Park's going to have 881 students. Whereas you look at Troy's got a total of 2,422 students. Rochester, 1,705 students. And Bloomfield Hills, 1,842 students. Hazel Park is one of the smallest enrollments in the league. Ferndale is the smallest. But when you look at Hazel Park, is pretty small. And let's look at a sport that's really been upsetting for them is football. And there's a reason why it's been a long year for Hazel Park. When you look at Hazel Park, since the last time they made the playoffs, they are 10-44 since 2011. 10-44 since 2011. What does it say? What does it say? And that's not playing those big schools. You only play those big schools maybe once, but it tells me that something seriously is wrong with that program. And to make it worse, they're 3-33 since 2013. What does that say? What does that say about your football program? Now, they did win 2 games last year. Finished 2-7. You know, I mean, there was a time where they were just terrible. I mean, when you look at Hazel Park this upcoming season, they're going to be in the blue. They're going to be in the blue with the likes of Pontiac, Ferndale, Avondale, Royal Oak. Royal Oak's bigger. Royal Oak's got a pretty nice enrollment. But you bring in the teams like Farmington and North Farmington. Of course, both those teams have new coaches. And, of course, you know, when you look at that situation, I think Farmington's going to be an interesting team to keep an eye on, for sure. And then, of course, when you look at North Farmington, they got a new coach in Brad Chisholm. I mean, Farmington, of course, with Corey Sikarak. But when you look at Hazel Park's schedule, they have to go to Warren Fitzgerald in August. They open up the year with them in August. And Warren Fitzgerald just laid a beating on Hazel Park first week of the year. It wasn't even funny. It was a beating that they did to him. And I can only imagine how that matchup's going to be at Warren Fitzgerald on their new field. It's going to be a slaughter week 1 over at Warren Fitzgerald for Hazel Park. It is going to be just an absolute slaughter. It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. And then you look at, next year, Hazel Park's going to Class A. Especially when you're looking at the possibility of being placed in a district with Southfield Arts and Tech, Berkeley, Oak Park, Warren Fitzgerald, and Detroit Renaissance. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. When you look at that. I mean, volleyball, you know, when you look at it here, I think they got a chance, you know. They got a shot. You know, I think volleyball, they got a shot. Both girls and boys basketball, they got no chance. And I'll be honest. Yeah, Hazel Park's going to be a senior-heavy team in boys basketball and also in girls basketball. But they got no chance. And the reason why, let's look at girls basketball. You're looking at possibly dealing with Southfield Arts and Tech. And you're looking at possibly dealing with Detroit Renaissance. Those two teams are going to be they're still going to be loaded. they're good programs. They are very good programs. And you look at Warren Fitzgerald, yeah, they're up and coming. Oak Park's had a rough year. Berkeley, of course, Berkeley's not a bad team under Georgia Group. They run a good program over there. So Hazel Park will have their hands full. They really will have their hands full. Boys basketball, yeah, they're going to be pretty good. They won a district championship for the first time since 1965. But when you're in a district with Southfield Arts and Tech, Oak Park, and Detroit Renaissance, no thanks. That is not a good district. That is not going to be good. And that is the real possibility Hazel Park faces when you're dealing with these teams. Warren Fitzgerald, Oak Park, and Southfield Arts and Tech. That's a real possibility for this team. I mean, when you look at Hazel, and of course you're in the red, and what doesn't help the Vikings this year, actually, they're going to be in the red division. You got to deal with the defending Division I state champions, who's got the majority of their team back, with the exception of Dylan Lawson. North Farmington, team that went to state final last year. West Bloomfield's a state Final Four team from a year ago. And they're going to be solid. Troy, state quarterfinalists from a year ago. They're going to be tough. And then you look at Southfield Arts and Tech. They're always good under Mike Avery. And Bloomfield Hills, of course, they're going to be rebuilding a little bit over there. When I look at Hazel Park, this is a basketball team that could finish as low as second to last in the red. That's dangerous for this team. And this is a senior-heavy team Hazel Park's got. They have to address depths. They have to address it. Especially because now you're going to be up in Class A, having to play these juggernaut teams in the red division. And, of course, you're going to be in a district where it's going to be very difficult, where you have the same amount of teams, Southfield Arts Tech and Oak Park, and, of course, you add Detroit Renaissance in that district. That's not good for this team. That's not good for Hazel Park. So, volleyball, they got a chance. They got a chance in volleyball. Girls basketball, no chance, because of Southfield Arts and Tech and Detroit Renaissance. Boys basketball, maybe a slim chance if you count Southfield Arts and Tech and Oak Park and Detroit Renaissance, but it all depends when June comes. It all depends when the districts are released. I believe they're going to be released June 24th. So, it's a very interesting situation how Hazel Park is. So, when you look at it here, if Hazel Park would have went to the Macomb Area Conference, it would have been interesting, but it wouldn't have mattered. Because if they were competing with Clawson, Madison Heights, Lamphere, and you're still going to be in Class A. I mean, you're still going to be Class A, regardless. And you're going to be seeing these teams and of course, the bulk of the Macomb area teams they want to see were in Class B. Clawson's a Class B team. Madison Heights, Lamphere's a Class B team. Warren Fitzgerald's a Class A team. And they were in that line between Class A, Class B for a little while. So, when you look at the situation, how this unfolded, I mean, I think Hazel Park's better off being in the OAA than they are in the MAC. Now, I think the OAA is going to toughen them up. That's for sure. Now, they're going to probably be complaining about having to go against teams that are bigger than they are. Ferndale, look at Ferndale. They have to go through the same thing. And Ferndale doesn't have a problem with it. Pontiac just recently moved down from Class A to Class B. and they're in the blue division for boys basketball this year. They got to play teams in the gold. They got to play in both girls and boys basketball. I don't see them having a problem with it. So, my thoughts on that really is just, when you look at it here, with the opportunity to go to the Macomb Area Conference, Hazel Park, I know, has been working really hard to get to that conference. But it looks like now with the principals voting it down, it means for the time being, Hazel Park's going to stay in the OA. And of course, the next 2 years, when Harrison closes, you're going to be down from 23 schools to 22 schools. So that's going to be really interesting, to say the least. But when you look at how this was, and a lot of it comes down to football. And Hazel Park's not been good at football. We know that. They have not been very good. They haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. 10-44 since 2011. 3-33 since 2013. And then you open up the year with at Warren Fitzgerald, and you have games against Avondale, who I think is going to be very good. Ferndale, who I think is going to be very good this year. Farmington's going to be a team to keep an eye on. North Farmington's going to be a team to keep an eye on. So it could very well be a long year. It could very well be a long year for Hazel Park. It could very well be that. So, but, when you look at it here, I think for Hazel Park right now, I think for them, I think the league, they should be in as the OA. Because they're in Oakland County. They compete with some of the top teams in the league. Do they compete going up north to Oxford, Lake Orion, Clarkson? No. But, when you're good, you know what I mean? You go up a division. You compete with those teams. It's not like the MAC. It's not like the Macomb Area Conference where, or it's not like the old KLAA where, of course, you're just basically playing those 5-6 teams every year, in every single sport, So at the end of the day, I mean, I think this is the league for Hazel Park to be in, the OA. And, and if they would have been the MAC, so be it. I mean, but the Macomb Area Conference, big league anyway. They got about 33, I think they got 33 schools in there. They just had Mount Clemens drop out of that league. Now they're an independent. Now, can Hazel Park be an independent? Sure. But you're going to have a really tough time with scheduling. You're going to have a really tough time with getting games because being an independent's really difficult. Being in the conference. Notre Dame Prep, they're having a tough time. But you look at them, so it'll be interesting to see the least. It'll be very interesting to see the least with how Hazel Park is going to be going forward. My final thoughts on this, at the end of the day, it is what is with Hazel Park. It is what is. Now, the MHA is making some changes. Of course, coming in the 2018-2019 season, they're going to use the division systems to the class system for volleyball, girls, and boys basketball. Football, they're going to be limited to just 90 minutes of physical contact during practice each week after the first week of the season. State final games we play on Fridays as well as Saturdays. Soccer, the league will not have overtimes or shootouts. They're going to call it the ties. My thoughts on this, the OA has ties in soccer. So I think this is just like putting the rest of the state on par with that. The division system, I like it because as long as it goes by based on enrollment, I think it makes a lot of sense there with them. Football, I think it's terrible. I don't like the limited to more than 90 minutes because of the fact that this benefits teams that are finesse and not physical teams. Now I understand they have a concussion policy, but to limit teams 90 minutes a week for physical contact, no, I don't support that at all. This doesn't add up. It's something that and I played football myself. I played it, and football is a physical game. It always is, and the last few years has really gone from more of a physical game to a finesse game, and I don't really like how it's gone that route, but I kind of view it more. No offense, I view it more as like, I know the concussion policy is very important, but I kind of view it as more like a WWE type of thing. But it is what it is. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. So, okay, now we come back. We're going to recap the regional for track and field. Here on OAA.
Hey, it's Owen TV here. Now, have you ever had the urge to create your own TV show? Or just wanted to see what goes behind the scenes of making one? Well, we have just the program for you. OWN TV offers production classes, which allow you to take control and create the programs you want them to be. To get started, all you have to do is sign up for a free orientation, and then register for one of our production courses. For more information, feel free to call us at 248-393-1060, or go to orionontv.org and click Register Now to sign up for classes. We hope to see you soon.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Timmy here. Of course, big news out of wrestling, of course, before we go to track and field. Ross Wangert's been named the new head coach at Oxford, succeeding Paul McDevitt. Of course, McDevitt was the legendary wrestling coach at Oxford, of course, leading the Wildcats to their 2001 state championship in Class A. Works a financial advisor at Edward Jones. Also, is a football coach on the Bud Riley's program. It's an interesting move. I like the move. I think it's going to be a good move for Oxford wrestling in the future. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do like Paul Weingart. I do like Ross Weingart a lot. I think he's going to do a really good job at Oxford going forward. So that's an interesting move right there. Let's recap, of course, the track regionals. Of course, this is probably the first time that I'm going to admit I was writing on a lot of this, how the recaps and all that fun stuff. I wasn't surprised Oak Park won it. I think that they really performed very well to expectation. So it really wasn't much of a surprise that they did win that regional. Of course, they did sign 4 very good athletes to scholarships. 2 guys, 2 girls. One is going to Taylor University. One is going to Columbia University. Another one's going to Texas. And then, of course, Cameron Cooper's going to LSU. And, of course, they got another one going to Michigan. So, very interesting how Oak Park's both boys and girls end up winning the meet. It wouldn't surprise me if Oak Park is favored this weekend at the upcoming Oakland County meet that's going to be taking place this weekend at Novi. Very interesting how that's going to unfold there. So Oak Park, of course, won the regional at North Farmington for both girls and boys track. So that came up to no surprise there. How those teams ended up occurring that one. Let's go to Macomb, Dakota, of course. This one was very interesting because I thought this was going to be a really close meet. Macomb, Dakota won that regional and the boys' side of things. They did really well on some things. Troy ended up winning the girls. For Troy, this has been a huge success for them this year. Of course, they were a team that really, they weren't going, this was a team that put in a lot of work, put in a lot of adversity. They've overcame a lot, and they ended up winning that regional. That's a huge accomplishment for Troy to basically go through that. So it was a good way to happen that for Troy. in the girls. So very interesting there. Lake Orion Regional, of course, I wasn't surprised with either team. Grand Blanc winning convincingly. Romeo taking second. Lake Orion third. Kind of was the three that I expected it would be in the boys. The girls, I was very impressed with Grand Blanc because when you look at Grand Blanc in the girls, I didn't think they would do much. They did threaten Lake Orion until the very end, I think, where the Dragons pulled away. Lake Orion ended up winning that regional, excuse me, for the first time since 2010. So good way for Coach Dave Hudson to win his first regional there in that one. And last but not least, the regional at South Lyon East. I wasn't surprised that South Lyon East would win the girls. South Lyon East, interesting team to keep an eye on. Of course, they're last year in the KLA before they go to the New Lakes Valley Conference along with South Lyon, Wall Lake Western, Wall Lake Central, Wall Lake Northern, Lakeland, Milford, Waterford Kettering, and Waterford Mott. So when you look at that, no surprise how that unfolded. South Lyon East, of course, interesting team to keep an eye on. And of course, Avondale ended up winning the boys thing. Of course, the sprints, the relays were right there on par for Avondale. So very interesting how that unfolded there in that one. The regional, I got to give an edge to Oak Park in both boys and girls for the Oakland County meet. I think it's going to be a very interesting meet. But I think Oak Park's going to be doing a ton next year in that one. So let's preview the lacrosse regionals. Of course, Division I regional at North Farmington. I like Novi Detroit Catholic Central to move on to that one. I just think that the Shamrocks, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be talented. They're one of those top teams in the Catholic League. They're one of the top teams in the league. They gave Birmingham Brother Rice problems. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I like Novi Detroit Catholic Central to move on into their into District 1, Regional 4 over there at North Farmington. Region 5 at Orion, of course, this one here is interesting. I think it's going to be Lake Orion against either Clarkson or Bloomfield Hills. Bloomfield Hills gave Orion a lot of problems. Clarkston, when you look at them, they've always given Orion fits. But I like the Dragons to move on in this region. Reason why, I think too much depth. I think the reality of having to play to be in a favorable spot. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I like Lake Orion to pull this district, to pull this regional off in boys lacrosse. I think too much firepower. Defensively, this team's going to be fine. It's going to come down to defense for Lake Orion. It really is when you look at this team. Region 6 at Birmingham. I'm going to give an edge to Troy Athens, even though I'm not sold on Troy Athens. I think Birmingham can give them problems. Detroit University, Detroit Jesuit can give them problems. But at the end of the day, when you look at this one, I got to give an edge to Troy Athens because despite the fact I'm not sold on this team, they have enough to basically find a way to move on. But be careful of Birmingham. Birmingham's going to be a team to be a very, very dangerous team to keep an eye on. And it wouldn't surprise me. They score a bunch of points. It wouldn't surprise me that Birmingham and Troy Athens in a district final match or in a semifinal match. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting matchup. So we'll see what happens there with that one. But I got to give an edge to Troy Athens by a thread. When I look at this, the regional at Oxford, a lot of people say, well, why aren't you going Heartland? Why aren't you going Heartland? Well, because I'm not high on Heartland. I mean, Heartland's a pretty good team. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at Oxford's a 3 seed, but have they really played anybody? When you look at Oxford, I think they're gonna get beat by Midland. I love the Chemics. This is a very interesting lacrosse team to keep an eye on. Midland's gonna be a team that's gonna do a lot of damage, and Midland's my pick to win it because to pick this regional because they have what it takes. They've been down south before. They've been to Lake Orion. Played Lake Orion, beat Lake Orion, by the way. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's a Heartland-Midland final. If Oxford wins that district, I'd be shocked. But either way, I think Midland too much. I like Midland in that one. Division 2, District 14, at Walled Lake Western. You know, I can't bet against Cranbrook Kingswood. I really can't bet against them. Now, Ann Arbor Gabriel or Shark give them some trouble. But I just think that, you know, when I look at Cranbrook Kingswood, this is a team that's going to be a very dangerous team. They're a top seed for a reason. They're going to contend. Royal Oak's got no chance. I think at the end of the day, it wouldn't surprise me if it's going to be Ann Arbor Gabriel or Charlotte Dearborn Devon Child versus Cranbrook Kingswood final. It really wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to give the edge to Cranbrook Kingswood here, and I think they're going to win that regional. I think pretty easily. So that's an interesting matchup there. Region 16 at Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory. Where Avondale's at. You know, a lot of people are high on Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory, that rematch. You know, when I look at this one, I like the Irish to come out because they're at home. I think that the Fighting Irish are going to be a team that could be a very dangerous team to keep an eye on. And I think it's going to be very interesting to say the least. But, you know, Orchard Lake St. Mary versus Pontiac Notre Dame Preparatory final. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be all Irish. I think in that one, very close match with the Eaglets, but I think it's going to be Pontiac Notre Dame Prep that moves on into the regional. Let's go to girls lacrosse. Of course, in this one here, Division 1, Region 2 at Novi. I like Ann Arbor Pioneer. Very athletic, very talented team. You know, when you look at it here, Northville, Plymouth could be a dark horse team. But end of the day, I just think that Ann Arbor Pioneer got enough talent. They're going to do some damage. I like Pioneer to get out of that round over there. Division 1, Region 3 at Troy. You know, Birmingham went to the state final last year. Troy's going to be a team to keep an eye on. But when I look at this matchup here, Utica Eisenhower is also a dark horse team to keep an eye on as well. I like Birmingham to move on because of their experience. But Troy, the host, they're going to be a tough team to beat. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. It wouldn't surprise me. It's going to be a good Birmingham's got a real interesting matchup with Utica Eisenhower, but I think they match them up well. So I like Birmingham to move on to the regional, to the quarterfinals. So it's a very interesting one there. Region 4, Orion. If there's one big matchup in this one, it's Lake Orion against Heartland. Whoever wins that matchup wins the regional. Lake Orion has had issues with Heartland in the past. They've not been able to get over that hump. And what makes me think it's going to happen this time around? If Lake Orion gets by Heartland, they're going to be regional champs. If Heartland wins, Heartland's regional champ. So whoever wins that game is regional champs. I'm taking Heartland. Despite the fact that Orion's been at home. They're at home. But I just think the Eagles, too much experience, could be very interesting. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Division 2, Region 6. Very interesting here. Of course, St. Catherine. Looking at St. Catherine, Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard final. You know, I like Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard to knock off St. Catherine. Pretty interesting regional, to say the least. Now, Farmington could have a say here. Loading Ladywood's another one. But end of the day, I'm going to take Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard. They got a lot of talent on that team. So it's going to be a really tough challenge there for them going forward. So we shall see what happens in that matchup. We shall see. Yes, we shall. And then Region 8, of course, it's at Cranbrook Kingswood. Of course, you know, when I look at this one, Birmingham Marion taking on a district final between Birmingham Marion against Warren Regina, the Satellites against the Mustangs. This would be very interesting because this ends up being a really good Catholic League matchup. I think these two teams did play each other early in the year. It went down on the wire. I expect in this one, I think the experience of Warren Regina is going to come through in this matchup. I just think at the end of the day, too much experience is going to be the thing. Warren Regina, I like the Satellites to move on to the quarterfinal round to knock off the Mustangs. It'd be a really good matchup. Either way, we shall see what happens with that going forward. My final thoughts, very interesting. Of course, we got a lot to cover here. We had a lot to cover this week. A lot of news around the league. Of course, the girls basketball news really much making the headlines around the league. Of course, what happened at Lake Orion and also at Adams. So we'll see what happens with those two situations. Track and field, of course, previewing the Oakland County meet. Of course, you look at, everybody knows who's favored coming out of that one. I think it's going to be Oak Park. That wins both boys and girls pretty handily. But I think Lake Orion could give Oak Park a challenge in that meet. Of course, Lake Orion matches up. I think Lake Orion matches up well with Oak Park in the girls' side of things. In the boys, I don't think anybody's touching Oak Park. Oak Park, too athletic, too explosive. I think it's going to be a really tough task for Oak Park. Really tough task for anybody to knock off Oak Park. So that'll be very interesting to say the least on that predicament there for track and field. Once again, I will have the previews for the district playoffs for girls soccer, baseball, and softball coming up this upcoming weekend before I head north for Memorial Day weekend to celebrate that. So that'll be very interesting to say the least. How you can look at. I will release my projections coming up sometime this week on the Inside the OA blog. I'm at Sammy_Termina at blogspot.com. And of course, we will recap. We'll preview those coming up sometime next week. So we'll see what happens going forward with them. So I will post my projections and preview insight for girls soccer, along with baseball and softball. So, and of course, state meets coming up on June 3rd. So that'll be very interesting to say the least. And then track season's all done. You know what I mean? After June 3rd. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens.